Hello and welcome to the reaction. I hope we're live. It should be working fine. Fingers crossed the sound is all good because we've just seen Everton distribute Liverpool around the pitch 2-0 at Anfield. Jalab, check your sound. How are you sounding?
1-2. Yeah, no. It's what a game! What a game we just witnessed. I mean, maybe not necessarily a classic for the ages. Wasn't necessarily chances galore, but fair play to Everton from the off within the first couple of minutes. I mean, if you're a Liverpool fan right now, you're not too happy, are you? I'm in the comments as well, so I've seen all your comments. So get them in as well whilst we react to the game. Everton beating Liverpool 2-0 at Anfield for the first time, in over a decade, is it?
Yeah, something like that. Something ridiculous like that. I think that's 4 home losses in a row now as well for Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. Is that winless in 6 in the Premier League? Something like that? I mean, it's looking pretty ropey right now for Liverpool. If you're a Liverpool fan, let us know what your thoughts are about that game in the comments below. Let us know if you're angry, if you're sad about the Jurgen Klopp situation. What is going wrong there? But Everton fans, you must be absolutely buzzing right now. DJ, what did you make of the game, firstly?
Everton played it quite well. I mean, Liverpool didn't help themselves in terms of an attack. They've kind of had all the ball. They kind of like Chelsea earlier, if I'm being quite honest. Had all the ball, had all the possession. However, didn't really create that many chances. And when they did, Jordan Pickford was there to kind of stop them. I thought Keane also had a pretty good game too. In the defence, he made a good tackle in the first half. In the second half, after a ball from Robertson to Mane, just somehow got his foot there. He was really, really good today. Yeah, and Pickford today, a couple of big saves. Maybe his best game in an Everton shirt, if we're being quite honest.
For a long time.
Because sometimes he has quite a rough time. And it's a little bit rash, but today he seemed a bit more cool, calm, collected in that net, and had a good game. For Liverpool though, it just didn't seem like they were quite there. Nothing was quite ticking. It was as if they'd get to the final third and then just didn't know what to do, didn't know whether to go in for the cross or go through the middle, and didn't really create too many chances. I mean, you come away from that game probably thinking that Everton were the deserved winners. They didn't really get lucky.
Oh, they didn't get lucky. Everton had the big chances in this game. I mean, Seamus Coleman's header in the first half has to go in. Anybody but Seamus Coleman on the end of that you want. Literally, he's the lowest in the order that you want on the end of that header. But I thought Everton were fully deserving of all 3 points. Liverpool created nothing, man. They had loads of the ball. There was a stat that popped up. They had about 85% possession at one stage in the second half, and they'd created nothing, really. Pickford... There's a couple of good chances towards the back end where Salah went through one-on-one, but the majority of it was fairly comfortable. Richarlison obviously put 1-0 up very early, which helped Everton's game plan. I think it allowed them to sit a little bit deeper. I thought the 5 at the back system worked perfectly. Mason Holgate was awesome man marking Sadio Mane, can I just say, in that game. Really, really impressed by him, Godfrey and Michael Keane. Let's talk about the penalty, because the chat is all about the penalty. What do you think? Was that a penalty? Was that not a penalty? I think it's harsh,
I've already seen a few.
I think it's so harsh. I think the referee, I don't understand his decision-making process when he's going to the monitor, because he jogs to the monitor. He must be at the monitor for about 3 to 4 seconds. One replay max before he confirms his own decision. I think that Calvert-Lewin trips over Trent. There's nothing Trent can do. He's slid into block and then he's static, and somehow Calvert-Lewin trips over the top of him rather than just tapping into an open net. I don't understand where the foul is, to be totally honest with you. I wouldn't have given it as a pen. Would you have given it as a pen, Deej?
I understand maybe in the heat of the moment how he's seen it, especially with him through on goal, having just had that chance. But yeah, once looking back at it on the replay, I was almost certain he'd change it. And obviously, if someone at VAR is kind of telling you have a look at the monitor, they believe that there's a chance you should overturn the decision. But I mean, he stuck to the decision. Not many refs do that as well. A lot of refs go over to the monitor and always change their decision. He stuck with it. And for Liverpool fans, it must have hurt, because you're right. Trent literally can't do anything to get out of the way. And also, if you look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't even try to go for a second attempt. He more just goes, okay, I'm just going to fall over Trent and try and win a penalty. And he does. The lead up to that, Richarlison, I thought, did really, really well. Driving that ball, perfectly placed pass. He actually had a good game as well for him. Kind of missed maybe a couple of chances. But yeah, he was fantastic. But yeah, penalty-wise, just not enough. I mean, as you guys said, the chat here, I mean, a couple of people calling Klopp a flop. I don't know about that. But people saying Everton stayed solid. It was an open goal chance, mate. But and that's what I think. That's the issue that I had though with Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin didn't go for the ball for the second chance. He just opted to fall over Trent. He could theoretically just jump out the way of Trent and try and go for the second chance. And if he gets taken out, then I don't know. People here saying Ben Nicholas says wasn't a pen. Not going to moan though. I mean, I'm not going to moan too much either with the result, because it means now that Liverpool are in 6th place on 40 points. Everton are now 7th, just behind them, also on 40 points, and they have a game in hand. If Everton win that game in hand, they would then be level with Chelsea on 4th spot. West Ham are also in the mix there. They also have to play this weekend against Spurs, and if they beat Spurs, they go above Chelsea into 4th. So Champions League right now is all over the place, and there's still a lot more games coming through. We've got here, Hassan says, credits to Everton, but of course that wasn't a penalty. Clear pen, Omar says.
Omar's just winding people up. Do you know what I want to talk about? I've seen a few people here. Abdul says Kabak was terrible. I didn't think he was particularly impressive today. It was a hard game to be thrown into the mix with. Look, we know Liverpool have centre-back issues. Made even worse today's result, by the way, the fact that Jordan Henderson picked up what looks to be a fairly serious injury, maybe a pulled groin, something like that, at least enough to keep him out for a couple of weeks. But that was their 17th centre-back pairing today. Kabak, and it's going to have to be Nat Phillips now, because, of course, you've got Fabinho, Van Dijk, Matip, Joe Gomez, and Jordan Henderson out injured. I don't know where Ben Davies is. I guess he's not quite fit and ready to play yet, but either way, wasn't overly impressed by Kabak. I thought he was super vulnerable to the long ball. I understand it was windy on the day, but the amount of times he misjudged a header, I kind of felt myself thinking, it's not really an excuse anymore to be getting under the ball this much. Obviously, you're a top-class professional athlete, should be getting your head on balls this a little bit more regularly. I don't want to hammer him because he's a young lad stepping into a truly elite side, but I didn't think he was that impressive today. I would be slightly worried if I was a Liverpool fan. What did you think of Kabak not having him today?
I didn't think he was too bad. I thought maybe he could do a little bit better than for the first goal. I mean, it was so quick, but I also thought the ball from James Rodriguez as well was pretty good. I think the issue as well for him and being in that Liverpool defence is you aren't under pressure a lot. But the issue is when you do come under pressure, and this is kind of what sets apart the good players from the bad players, is being able to deal with it. Because, I don't know, Everton had maybe 4 or 5 attacks in that game. They weren't attacking Liverpool throughout that whole game. It was very much in moments, and it's being able to deal with those moments. And that and Kabak, just wasn't up to it. Nat Phillips as well, bless him, coming on. I mean, it was him versus Calvert. The second Calvert-Lewin came on, he just absolutely battled them. I mean, winning the ball constantly, and it was defensively for them, it is a huge worry now that they've got no centre backs basically, or their starting centre backs from the years. I mean, Virgil van Dijk was watching that game. He must have been just devastated, thinking, I wish I could be playing right now to help out, 100%. Because it really isn't good. And that's the knock-on effects, right, of playing the same squad year on year for the past 2 seasons, basically.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm just looking at the chat here. Quite a lot of people are saying and want to talk about Tom Davies' performance today as well. And I do want to hype him up because I thought he was the best player on the pitch today. Absolutely awesome in blue in the centre of the park against what is still a very strong Liverpool midfield. He was absolutely everywhere, smashing into tackles. And, you know, he does fly under the radar a little bit, Tom Davies, for Everton, because they've got some much bigger household names, your likes of Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, James Rodriguez, I'd say Alan, and maybe even Andre Gomez, bigger names than him in that midfield. But Tom Davies is doing a silently excellent job. I thought probably my man of the match on the day, other than maybe Michael Keane, Mason Holgate did a great job as well.
Keane might take it for me. I thought, he had a fantastic game. But I do agree, Tom Davies.
There's something about him, I think maybe being a little bit more of a local lad, flying into tackles in the centre of the park. That's what I like to see. And do you know what? I thought it was quite telling at the start of the game when Klopp said, poker face from Carlo Ancelotti. I reckon during the week, Klopp had been training and working pretty hard on facing a Dominic Calvert-Lewin centre forward. And by leaving Calvert-Lewin and Alan as well on the bench, who were both rumoured to be fit for the game, I think maybe he just threw Liverpool's game plan out of the window a little bit, especially at the start of the match before they could find their feet. That allowed, because they were a little bit deeper, worried about that Calvert-Lewin threat, and that's how they'd worked and set up in training. Maybe that's the reason Richarlison was allowed to just sneak in behind, and Rodriguez had a couple of extra yards. So hats off to Calvert-Lewin. But Liverpool, that front three, another dud. Diogo Jota needs to come back quickly, Jalab.
Yeah. Firmino today was not good at all. No. I think it's been safe to say the past few weeks, Firmino's not been good. Probably his last good game was against Spurs. And that was a while back, and it's kind of as if Liverpool are kind of relying so much on Mohamed Salah to try and get them out of these positions and try and help them when games aren't going their way and try and pick them out of the rut. And recently, he's just not been doing it. Players can't perform to that level every single game. Sadio Mane's gone a bit missing recently, and as you said, when you've got a striker who's not known for scoring goals, maybe today was a game for Origi. Maybe today was a game for a striker who could try and impact the play.
Call that from you.
But then you look at what Firmino did today. Like I look at the chances that he missed, and those are if it is a goal-scoring striker, not a defensive striker, and all that kind of stuff that people like to mention, maybe it's a different game. I just think the way that he kind of played today didn't really leave you with much enjoyment. Like realistically, a Liverpool fan sitting there going, okay, we're happy with that performance from him? For sure not. In a derby as well, because that's the mad thing as well, right? This is a huge derby. Everton haven't won in so long, and they were deserved winners. And maybe look, Jota does change that, and God knows they need him after that kind of performance, because they can't keep trying to hope and pray that Salah gets them out of situations like that.
Yeah, do you know who I'd be slightly worried about as well? Sadio, not massively, because he's still obviously one of the exceptional wide men in the league. Is Sadio Mane's impact on this Liverpool side just waning a little bit? I'm on my phone just having a look at some of his recent goal-scoring antics, and he got one obviously midweek against Leipzig, but prior to that, it was 1 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 in 7. Really, prior to the Leipzig game as well. So a little bit more sporadic. Last season we saw him scoring nearly every week. So he obviously needs to put together a little bit of a run now for Liverpool towards his back end of the season. I just saw somebody ask their thoughts on how well Godfrey and Holgate are playing this season. That's from Arib Usmani. Yep. Exceptional. Ben Godfrey's step up from Norwich has been pretty predictable, though. Brilliant. I thought he was sensational and has been sensational for a couple of seasons for Norwich. Very versatile. Played in the fullback roles, now playing at centre half, his preferred position. Has been really good for some of the England youth teams, so it won't be long before he gets a call up. And a couple of other people saying, should Michael Keane get a game for England? I think he's in with the contention of Euro 2020. Do I think he's a starter with the form of John Stones? Probably not.
And Southgate, as you said, Southgate's loyal to how he said before, he's trust. And I'll be very surprised if I don't see Maguire and Stones back too. Definitely. Before then, there's probably there might be a couple of other defenders that he'll look to try and get in there as well. You never know. You might see Kyle Walker back at centre back today. I was just trying to think, like, this is very interesting for the future of Liverpool, right? I see a couple of people here mentioning that, do we think Liverpool should try and sell one of their front three in the summer? And maybe, obviously, there's news before Mbappe being rumoured to join Liverpool, people mentioning Haaland and all this kind of stuff. But if they don't get top four football,
oh my,
not many players will be wanting to try and come to Liverpool if they can't play in the Champions League for a season. That's got to be worrying.
But look, I think if you're joining Liverpool though, Like, I agree Champions League's massive, but I would still be joining Liverpool. Like, I would still be backing Jurgen Klopp. Like, if I was a player coming to the Premier League, Liverpool would still be one of my outstanding picks. Probably my 2 or 3 outstanding picks, even if they didn't get Champions League football this season, which I still think they will do. But the truly elite, like you said, if you're Erling Haaland and you're looking for a move this summer potentially, and everybody's going to be interested, you know, Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Real Madrid are all going to be interested. If Liverpool don't get Champions League football, I don't believe he would go there this season. Do I see Haaland taking a season out of Champions League football right now? No. And I also don't think Liverpool have that caveat of, okay, we might be out of the Champions League, but what we will do is we'll pay you 350 grand a week to come and play a season without Champions League football, get us back in there and then compete. I think Liverpool are going to be pretty rigid towards their wage structure, and I would be really surprised to see them competing for players like Haaland, like Jadon Sancho if they didn't get Champions League. I still think they will get Champions League, but having said that, it is now getting squeaky bum time, isn't it? Because Man United win tomorrow against Newcastle. They can go 9 points clear.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. I mean, then that's the other thing, right? There's a few teams that are in it. Chelsea still have to play Liverpool, United, City again. There's still some quite big fixtures. So the top 4 race isn't quite decided just yet. I think maybe the first and second place possibly, but the third and fourth, it could be anyone's in the next couple of months. And that's something that we'll definitely keep talking about over the coming weeks. We've got a comment here from George Larder, and he says, is Thiago the biggest flop in Premier League history? Now, obviously,
put some respect on his name.
Extra dramatic. But I mean, today, Joe, what did we think of him?
I can't really remember him. Which is pretty damning, isn't it? I think that's pretty damning. I wasn't overly impressed by him yet again, but it comes back to Liverpool being totally unbalanced because of the centre-back issues. If we're seeing a midfield of Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, is very, very different to what we're seeing right now with Van Dijk and Gomez behind them. I think Thiago is having to play in a slightly unfamiliar role in an unbalanced Liverpool team that are currently struggling a little bit. So it's always going to be hard for him. And to point the finger at Thiago, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. There's so many issues in this Liverpool side to get through before you even find Thiago. And I don't even think he's been that much of an issue. People talk about him being maybe too wants to be touches in midfield. Like Bayern used to, everybody seems to point like, oh, Bayern gave him so much more time. I just don't really agree. I think Bayern played electric at 100 miles an hour every time I watched them in the Champions League. I mean, me and you watched Bayern Munich dismantle Chelsea last season in the Champions League at Stamford Bridge. We're both there. We both left the ground saying, Thiago, best player on the pitch, maybe one of the best players we've ever seen live, and we've seen a lot of live football games. And that was because he was playing a little bit deeper, which I think he's not able to do right now because of the defensive injuries.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree. I think that's the main stumbling block. We've seen people keep saying as well that Liverpool is just the worst defending run for champions and all this kind of stuff. And okay, they aren't performing anywhere near, but also definitely not. Chelsea were very, very bad a couple of times. But when you have as many injuries like they've had and as many injuries to key players like they've had, you can't be saying things like that. You can't fully believe that. Of course, people are doing it for jokes and banter and all that stuff and whatever it is, that's understandable to a certain degree. But in a realistic world, when you look at the context of the way it's been this season for Liverpool, like I saw something today that apparently the new centre-back for Liverpool, the one they got from Schalke, Kabak, and Henderson was the longest partnership they've had so far this season.
Wow, it's incredible, isn't it?
As a back two. That's insane.
I cannot believe that the amount of partnerships this Liverpool side have had to go through. And,
so 18,
and it's not just how much it affects the defence. It affects the line, it affects the confidence, it affects the midfield, it affects the creation from the fullbacks because maybe they have to sit a little bit deeper, maybe they have to play a little bit more narrow because they can't afford to leave the centre-backs as exposed as they could with Van Dijk. You know, when Van Dijk's alongside Robertson, he can cover so much more ground in that left-back slot and allowing Robertson to fly forward. And we all know that effectively Liverpool, or at least 50% of Liverpool's creation, came from their full-back areas last season in Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So these centre-back issues have been so damning for this Liverpool side, and they just weren't able to sort them out in January, to be totally honest with you. I want to talk a little bit more about Everton, though. I want to hear some Toffees fans in the comments below. I saw a few people saying Carlo Ancelotti is a god. He is doing a really unbelievable job. He's getting it spot on at the moment. I love the look of this Everton side when they play that back five with 3 centre-backs, wing-backs, a midfield 3, and then a front 2. I think that's when they're at their best, most suited. So I'm pretty impressed by him. I was impressed by him again today. Jalab, do you think they're genuine, realistic top 4 contenders?
I'm going to be very interested in what they do on Monday. So on Monday, the 1st of March, they play Southampton. Because Everton's form recently has been up and down. They've beaten Wolves and drawn to Leicester, then lost to Newcastle, just about beat Leeds, drew with United, then lost to Fulham, and then, as you saw today, beat Liverpool, which is a good record. However, it's kind of, if you're looking on form, you got no idea what the future's got in hold for them. If you're a betting man, I would not want to put any money on Everton. However, it looks like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he was able to come on at half-time back from that injury. He's so important to that team. So important. Just that target man. He plays that target man role so well for them. And for sure, with the way the season's looking and people dropping points left, right and centre all the time, then Champions League football, they might not come out and publicly say that, yeah, that's a target, but I'm sure behind the scenes they'll be thinking we want to strive for whatever's the best possible outcome here. And Champions League football looks like it's very much a possibility. I mean, if they win their game in hand, they are basically in with the right of Champions League football. They're level with points. If West Ham don't, if West Ham do win, then they're 1 point behind it. It's ridiculous. I never thought I'd see the league go quite as crazy as it has this season. But Everton have as good a chance as anyone probably to get into the Champions League.
Yeah, I totally agree. And talking of teams dropping points, do we want to have a little word of Chelsea today, DJ? Dropping points away at the Saints. What are your thoughts quickly?
It was one of those games. It was one of those games where Chelsea didn't seem to make any chances. I also thought Southampton defended really well. Salisu, the guy they brought in from Real Valladolid, was quality today. It was his first Premier League start, was fantastic. And they defended deep. I mean, the goal we gave away was sloppy. It was one thing. It was like their only chance that happened. And I kind of saw Tuchel afterwards being like, look, it was the one chance. He was more disappointed with the fact that we weren't doing anything in the final third, because everything before that final third was fantastic. Kante, brilliant today, fantastic game for him, back to his best. But yeah, it felt very much like, if you saw that afterwards, it felt like Chelsea had dropped 3 points and Everton felt like they'd won by gaining. Southampton had won by gaining 1 point. So definitely disappointing. The only thing that kind of pleases me is that Atletico lost to Levante. Yeah. So they lost 2-0 to Levante. So we'll that Champions League night on Tuesday is going to be very, very interesting. It just makes the top 4 really, really interesting, because Chelsea's next few games are rough. We've got, as you said, Atletico on Tuesday, then we've got United on the weekend. Not too long after that, we play Liverpool. Then not too long after that, we play City. There's some big games in there. It's kind of frustrating, because it would have been like, if we got those 3 points, it's just a bit more of a weight lifted from you. Like you're ahead, you're kind of solid place. So yeah, disappointing. However, I don't know. We've just got to get that final third, because it's been our whole thing this season. Even on the Lampard, we dominate games, but we wouldn't do anything in that last third. We wouldn't score enough goals. We wouldn't kill off games so many times. And I mean, we've not lost on the Tuchel yet, so it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
Yeah, a few people in the comments saying Seahand Y says United better beat Newcastle tomorrow and make the most of it. I totally agree. But as Chelsea have experienced, and a lot of top teams have experienced, it's actually just as easy to drop points against the middling and bottom half teams this season as it is to beat the biggest sides. I feel like the games like Man United, Chelsea and Chelsea City probably aren't as important as they once were, just because of the amount of points the top teams are dropping against the smaller sides, which is absolutely unbelievable amounts so far this today. A lot of people want to know, Jalab, from you, was Tuchel harsh on Callum? Now, if people didn't see this earlier, effectively Hudson-Odoi came on at half-time. Thomas Tuchel then substituted him in the 76th minute, so only 30 minutes of action, subbing a sub. And then after the game said he wasn't happy with his attitude, wasn't happy with his energy, wasn't happy with his counter-pressing. Harsh or not, Deej?
Mate, who am I interviewing in the next few weeks? Based on what I'm thinking, who am I going to get screwed over by? I understand. I think maybe as people, we probably take the subbing a sub off a bit too dramatically. But I do understand like why it is considered so seriously, why it is frustrating. Yeah, it probably was harsh. But then in the same breath, like. If Tuchel's that man, like we knew what we were getting when we were hiring Tuchel. He's someone that if he's not happy with the way someone's playing, he isn't afraid to make these kind of calls. He's not bothered by what the average fan on Twitter thinks of him doing that. It doesn't matter to him. And even for Callum, right? Callum will then go from there and go, I've got to do better. Like in the same breath, Callum also helped win the penalty. He was definitely a part of that. And I didn't necessarily think Ziyech came on and did much more that maybe Callum could have done. But that's the risk you take. Chelsea have so many attacking talents at the moment. I mean, Pulisic wasn't even on the bench because he's out injured. Havertz wasn't even on the bench because he's just come back from injury, right? These are two other guys who aren't even in the squad at the moment. And so you kind of look at that and you think, all right, Chelsea are in a position now where we've got to try and see who the attackers are that are going to get us out of these situations, because for so many years we relied on just Eden Hazard doing a madness and helping us win games. And that at times, that sometimes feels like what we're trying to hope for now with Callum Hudson-Odoi and things like that. So yeah, I didn't necessarily think it was the worst decision in the world, but I do understand why it was a bit mental and a bit frustrating for Callum, for sure.
Yeah, let's get back to this Liverpool-Everton game then. A few Everton fans absolutely delighted flooding in. Also, a few Liverpool fans not too happy. Amik Singh says, if Liverpool cannot play Plan A due to injuries, which they got a lot of, shouldn't Klopp initiate a Plan B? I think the issue is, Amik, what is the Plan B for Liverpool? Effectively, that front three has been locked in now for 3-4 years. They didn't sign anyone other than Diogo Jota in the forward areas, and he's subsequently picked up an injury. So it's the same front three. The back line's got a couple of injuries, and the fullbacks aren't really performing. I don't believe they've got the assets to change up that much. Not as if they've got a big target man striker they can sling in there and go, okay, we're going to drop in and we're going to play Mo Salah and a target man as a front two, and then we're going to play Sadio Mane a little bit wider and stuff like this. I think the only option they've got is to maintain this front three, especially without Diogo Jota. When Jota comes back, they might go to a 4. You might see that, but to go to like wing backs or something like that, I think would be a catastrophe. I've seen Trent a few times playing as a wing back for England, and it's not really worked. He's much better crossing the ball from deep. I don't really know how Liverpool get out of this slump, because it's not as if the injuries are going to be fixed overnight. It's going to come down to sheer mentality and grit for me, because I don't think they've got the personnel to change to a Plan B, and I don't believe they've actually got like any really quick fix solution.
What Plan B also accounts for all of your starting centre-backs to be injured? Like, there isn't a plan for that. Like, you can't plan for your starting 2 centre-backs to be injured, then your sub-centre-back to be injured, then the 2 midfielders who help you out in that position also to be injured. Like, you just can't account for that. That's something which is such a rare occasion. I mean, it's not something that happens week in, week out. And I'm sure Klopp, when he saw that Henderson injury happen, just go like, what's happening? Anyone we put in that position... Almost. Yeah, literally. It's like, anyone we put in this position is it cursed? They're just going to get an injury. And that's why you've seen people like Nat Phillips come there. Who's the boy they got from Preston? I don't think he's debuted just yet. But Kabak also featured there. Like they're trying to sort out the issue in the only way they know how, by playing some centre backs there, but centre backs who aren't necessarily to the level maybe Liverpool want or experienced enough. And it's maybe. The other thing as well is Klopp has, as you said, like he's got a certain way. It's the way the players all play, and there's only some. You can't change it. You can't change it tenfold and try and expect different results. Sometimes you do just have to kind of play through it and hope you don't continue to get injury after injury after injury, which is just what's happening.
Yeah, Rob Derp here said, talking like they didn't just have a transfer window, which is partially true, but I think the player and the calibre of player Liverpool are trying to sign is not going to be available in a January transfer window like that. To sign a player like Bruno Fernandes is It never happens. It's so rare you see players of that calibre come into the club. And Liverpool are trying to build a project here, and they've built a project successfully over the last decade, half a decade, to the point where they're winning league titles, they're winning Champions Leagues, they're winning pretty much every cup available. And they're not going to throw all of that out of the book just to spend excess amounts of money in the January window. I think the way Klopp's going to deal with this is he's going to say, okay, this season we've had some big bumps in the road, the Van Dijk injury being the bumpiest of the lot. He's going to just try and get in the Champions League and restart next season. This season's chalked. It's finished for Liverpool. They might go fairly deep in the Champions League. I don't see them winning it. I think all they need to do, focus on getting top four, because at the moment, things are just unravelling too quickly, and they just need to bed down and get back to basics, in my opinion, Janab.
Well, I mean, as you've seen here, Felix has put Upamecano as available.
He wasn't available. What a load of rubbish, Felix.
You also got to remember as well, Liverpool financially aren't in a great place right now. It's not something that can happen. And spending £80 million on a centre-back in January, it just isn't possible.
It's not FIFA. We're not playing FIFA here. Upamecano has a buyout clause that becomes active in the summer, and Bayern Munich had already been in talks with him for the last 3 months over that move, and they couldn't even get it done in January. They prolonged it out to the summer. Leipzig had no need to sell in January. They're in a title race, Leipzig. They are not going to let one of their prize assets go in January, even for 20, 30 million more, if it means they can potentially win a title and go deep in the Champions League. They'll just let him go for his buyout clause in classic Leipzig fashion in the summer, and that's exactly what's happened. Any Liverpool fan that thinks that they could potentially have got Upamecano in January is chatting rubbish right now in the comments. It was not going to happen.
Yeah, precisely. It's just not a possible thing. I see people also here saying we continue to talk about Liverpool. We're not talking about Everton enough. I mean, we've kind of covered Everton throughout this live stream. If you haven't watched it as well, make sure you go back throughout it and definitely check it out, because we've heaped a ton of praise onto the Toffees. They were fantastic today and kind of got everything right. I mean, Ancelotti must be so proud of his boys with the way they probably implemented his plan. The midfield today was fantastic. James Rodriguez, after all that talk about him being homesick and all this kind of stuff, was brilliant out there on the field. Really, really nice ball for the first goal too. And just there's only so much you can say about it. It was so good. I didn't really see anyone put a foot wrong. Pickford. Yeah. Again, I think we've mentioned it once before, but it's either him or Keane that can take my man of the match for sure. But Pickford was.
I'll stick with Tom Davis, but you know what I want to also mention? Richarlison's finish. I was so impressed with that Richarlison finish, because he is prone to a whiffer of a one-on-one. He's not the best finisher, especially when he gets in behind like that. And he doesn't usually play as the out-and-out striker either. He usually plays coming in from the left, which I think is probably his better role. People have talked about him being an out-and-out striker in the past. But when he comes in from the left, his finishing's usually a bit suspect. Played as an out-and-out 9 today. I thought he caused Liverpool's backline plenty of problems. Aerially, running in behind, taking the ball into feet. A fantastic finish for his goal as well. A really nicely timed ball for the Dominic Calvert-Lewin penalty down the side. And I just have to say, he spun his man on the halfway line even for that. I have to say, I thought Richarlison was exceptional. But Everton, to a man, every single one of them was really impressive. Lucas says, how Everton spent £500 million and got worse 4 hours ago was a video we uploaded. It was. And I wasn't involved in it. It has to be said, I wasn't involved in it. But equally, there are arguments being made in that video which are fairly sound. Gemma Fletcher, we have already spoken about the man of the match. I've given mine to Tom Davis. I thought he was incredibly impressive throughout the whole game, and he has been really, really good recently. So I went Calvert-Lewin. Jalab went either Pickford or Michael Keane. Let's get a few more questions in. If you've got any questions, we'll be live for like another 5-10 minutes, something like that. Jalab, if you've got any questions you want us to answer now, just bang them in the comments, because effectively we've chatted about Liverpool and Everton for like half an hour or so. Any predictions for tomorrow's games then? Because that's from I Do Not Care. There's some unreal games tomorrow. West Ham Spurs, Villa Leicester, obviously Arsenal City and United Newcastle. Super Sunday is jammed tomorrow. Janab, what are you saying?
I would enjoy a Spurs win. Not very often I say that, just because West Ham are pushing us for Champions League places.
Nice draw there, please.
Yeah, draw wouldn't be too bad as well. And then City, I think City will probably do Arsenal win 3-0 or so. And then what was the other game?
Leicester, Villa, and United Newcastle.
Leicester Villa will be interesting. I think that could be a draw 2-2. Maybe someone sneaks a 3-2 win either way. Maybe Villa to go and get a win from that. I really enjoy watching Villa play. One of the most fun teams in the Prem to watch. Yeah. And United Newcastle. I hope Newcastle batter you guys 4-0. Don't think it'll happen, but I reckon United will win that just about.
All right.
I'll take a draw. No, I'll be realistic. A draw.
All right. I'm gonna go for West Ham to beat Tottenham 2-1. I'm gonna go Leicester Villa. Leicester comfortable 3-1 winners there. City Arsenal a little bit closer than you think. I'm gonna go 1-0 City, and then I'm gonna go United 4-1 Newcastle tomorrow. Those are going to be my predictions. Plenty of home victories, I think, potentially tomorrow. A lot of people asking for our top 4 predictions now, Janab. Do you want to give yours? I don't know whether I want to say mine. I'm a bit nervous to say mine. Go on, then.
Screw it. City to win the Prem.
Obviously.
United to finish second. Goodness gracious. This is where it gets interesting. Chelsea to finish. What's the table? Give me 2 seconds. Let me just Google the table. Chelsea to finish third, and Leicester to finish fourth. Leicester to finish fourth, Liverpool. I think. I have to know. If Henderson's injured, bro. If Henderson's injured, that's bad.
Oh my
God.
That's really bad. Jalab predicting there. It's live and exclusive. Liverpool to drop out the top 4. I'll go City, obviously, number 1. They're definitely going to win the title. Then I think United, Leicester, Liverpool. I think maybe Chelsea just miss out.
You think we'll drop out?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
I think Leicester. I actually believe Leicester will maintain this season. I think they've proved they can do it with the injuries. United could have a little bit of a wobble. Could definitely have a little bit of a wobble. If Bruno picked up an injury or something like that, then United wouldn't make top 4. So touch wood, that does not happen. Any other questions, Jalab?
I'm seeing here Ancelotti said he's fighting for Europe in his post-match interview.
Europa League.
Yeah, I mean that's no surprise. Yeah, look at the leaderboard. I mean they're chasing it like there's no different. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm being quite honest. People saying that Carlo Ancelotti ranks above Jurgen Klopp.
Who said that?
A few people, but this one is Chris Manocek.
Chris, mate, you're an absolute clown. Jurgen Klopp, 100% ranks above Carlo at the moment. I know he lost to him today, but Pep, Jurgen, and then a big old gap to the next manager. Let's put some respect on a few people's names. Absolutely ridiculous comments. A couple other ones then. Somebody asking me here about whether Dean Henderson should play in goal for United against Newcastle tomorrow. That's from I Do Not Care again, very regular commenter. I would say he should play against Newcastle. Do I think he will? No. I would love to see him get a run of 10 games in the side. I think David De Gea will be back in the sticks though, Jalab.
Yeah. I think David De Gea has not done too much wrong. I think his defence has let him down a bit recently, if I'm being quite honest. Lindelof and Maguire need to pick it up majorly. Who knows? Is Bailly maybe back for the weekend tomorrow?
Well, he played midweek in the Europa League, so fingers crossed he's back and playing in that one as well, because he is key, absolutely key. Okay, we're going to go for like another 5 minutes and then we're wrapping up. We'll go till 10 past. It's 10 past 8 in the UK, whatever it is, wherever you are in the world, we'll go till 10 past. So we've got another 6 minutes. Get your questions in right now. Everybody's calling Klopp a clown, a fraud. He got schooled. Everyone's saying he's a joke.
Someone put Wenger out.
I cannot believe the amount of people.
I've got a question here. What do you think about Salah's diving?
Ooh.
What do you think about Salah's diving?
There was one in this game. There was one in this game that was a whiff for Jalab. He should have got it for.
Yeah. 100%. Well, they don't book people for diving anymore. Have you noticed that?
When did it start happening? When did it start happening that people stopped getting booked for diving? Salah should have been booked today, and I've seen so many players this season that should have been booked. I don't know when it started happening, but the laws need to change back to the old ways where players actually start to get booked regularly because it's becoming ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. No, I completely agree. There's also this foul at the moment that's been annoying me so much. It happened in the Southampton-Chelsea game, and I lost my head at it, where defenders, or whoever it is, right, they will get the ball, and tell me if I'm in shot, but they will have the ball, and it's going out, they're shielding as it's coming out.
They flop forward.
And then, one guy taps on the back, and it's flop forward, and it gets given as a foul every time.
Gineppo did it.
And I don't understand.
Gineppo did it against Mason Mount this today.
It was doing my head in, and it's kind of the thing what Salah did today in the box, right? He's not necessarily shielding the ball, but he's got his body over the ball, one little touch, and he's flopped over, and that's given as a foul if you're defending it. I don't understand it, and it frustrates me so much watching it week in, week out. But yeah, that's my little gripe with diving in football. It's annoying, and people should get booked for sure.
100%. Let's do a few more other ones then. Can City win the Champions League from Mayank Vashinit? 100%. I think Man City are the favourites to win the Champions League this season. The Premier League, the teams are getting results in Europe, and I'm not even sure they're that good. And Man City are the best by a mile. I've watched a few La Liga sides play now in Europe. They have been absolutely pants, every single one of them. From Sociedad to Sevilla to Barcelona, they've been rubbish. Juventus, I thought, were awful against Porto. Bayern Munich, obviously, they're going to be a scary prospect still, but I'm not that impressed by Borussia Dortmund, even though they managed to scrape past Sevilla. I think this is Man City's year. I've said it on a couple of videos. Man City could do the treble this year. Man City could genuinely do the treble. They're going to walk away the Premier League, have that wrapped up by March. They've got Everton in the Cup, which is a tough tie. But as long as Pep can get the Champions League right, he owns domestic cup competitions. So I think he could well do the treble this year.
Wow. I mean, he's the place now where the league is. He's got a decent gap now, 10 points or so.
Yeah.
Between him and second place, which allows him to maybe focus on the Champions League. I hope he does. I honestly really hope he does. I mean, if Chelsea don't, then I hope he does. Because it would just it would cap off such a great time for him at Manchester City. The one worry I have for him is that he'll Guardiola it. Like, he'll think too much about it, and he'll end up somehow screwing it over and overthinking a game, and somehow playing a formation that's never been done before, like he's had kind of done recently over the past few years. But yeah, looking at the way the world's football is, or Europe's football is at the moment, City are probably favourites with the depth in their squad. Kevin De Bruyne isn't even in that squad at the moment, and they are ridiculous. They've got so many players to come back, and for them to get better, they play Mönchengladbach, I think, in the next couple of rounds. So you would assume they'd kind of get past them. The only other ones who I think may cause a massive issue, Bayern Munich, you've already said about them, but PSG. Ooh, PSG really impressed me against Barcelona. PSG and Kylian Mbappe no Neymar or Di Maria. Mbappe just stole the show. Was fantastic. He's already implemented his name. He's done it at the World Cup a couple of seasons before, but that was his first time in the Champions League. He'd properly shown up. And killed it, and I think that would be a really interesting tie. Maybe a Man City PSG, something like that. It's one that you maybe hope for the finals or so. But they're another team who I think could go maybe all the way, and especially the way they showed Barcelona. I mean, we said it on the live stream last week or earlier this week that it wasn't quite the level of the thrashing by Bayern Munich to Barcelona, but it wasn't too far in the way they played. So yeah, they could also do it, if not Chelsea. Who knows?
Yeah. So there we go. All right, it's pretty much time to wrap up. That was some performance by Everton today, obviously coming out 2-0 victories at Anfield. No wins in 6 now for Liverpool in the league. 4 home losses on the bounce. Jurgen Klopp fully in the mud. If you are new to Football Daily, hit the subscribe button right now. We're going to be doing live reactions to most of the big games throughout the rest of the season. We're probably going to do one tomorrow for maybe Man City Arsenal, maybe Leicester Villa if it's an absolute stunner, maybe even West Ham Spurs if it's a good game. You never know. You'll only find out if you hit subscribe. If you are new here as well, I want you to go and watch the South London documentary that we made about the ballers that have risen out of South London under the likes of Jadon Sancho, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Joe Gomez, and why they were able to get to the level they are at now. It's a really, really good watch, so make sure you go and watch that. Hit subscribe, hit the like button. Yeah, that's pretty much it from me and Zach Jalab. We'll see you later. Bye, 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 bye.